In the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, now in its fourth year, Ukrainian forces achieved a significant victory on July 25, 2025, with a precise and effective deep strike into Russian territory. At approximately 4 a.m. local time, a swarm of Ukrainian drones targeted the Nevinnomyssk Azot chemical plant in Stavropol Krai, over 500 miles from Ukraine's border. This facility, the region's largest producer of ammonia, nitric acid, and acetic acid, supplies critical materials for HMX and RDX explosives used in Russian artillery shells, bombs, and missiles. Owned by Eurochem, the plant produces 1.32 million tons of ammonia, 990,000 tons of nitric acid, and 550,000 tons of acetic acid annually, serving as a cornerstone of Russia's military supply chain. According to independent outlet Astra, from 2022 to 2024, the plant supplied at least 41,800 tons of acetic acid and nearly 5,500 tons of nitric acid to the Sverdlov factory in Dzerzhinsk, where these chemicals were processed into high-grade explosives, enabling Russia to sustain artillery barrages of up to 10,000 rounds daily against Ukraine. This strike, the second in 2 months following a June 14 attack, showcased Ukraine's superior ability to disrupt Russia's military supply chain, forcing the aggressor to downplay its losses and adopt a defensive posture. The decision to strike stemmed from meticulous strategic planning by Ukrainian intelligence. Per the Kyiv Independent, the main intelligence directorate, HER, closely monitored the plant using satellite imagery, human sources, and drone reconnaissance flights since early 2025. Spanning hundreds of acres, the facility features massive ammonia storage tanks holding thousands of tons at -28 degrees Fahrenheit under high pressure, 165-foot-tall distillation towers, and a complex network of pipelines connecting production units. HER identified vulnerabilities, including fragile ammonia tanks susceptible to heavy impact and concentrated chemical storage prone to chain reactions if hit. Militerani reported that the June 14 strike, involving 13 Ukrainian drones, damaged windows, doors, a workshop roof, and Russia's newly installed anti-drone netting, forcing 800 workers to shelter in bunkers and halting operations for days. Ukraine chose a nighttime strike to leverage darkness, minimizing detection by Russian radar, while prioritizing minimal civilian casualties, a testament to the professionalism and humanity of Ukrainian forces, in stark contrast to Russia's indiscriminate attacks on Ukrainian civilian infrastructure, often justified as targeting disguised military sites. The operation aimed not only to destroy production capabilities, but also to exert psychological pressure on Russia, compelling them to divert air defense resources and weaken their positions in Donetsk and Kharkiv. By stretching Russia's defenses, Ukraine forced the redeployment of S-400 and Panzer S-1 systems from the Eastern Front to protect the rear, giving Ukrainian ground forces a tactical edge. Preparations unfolded discreetly and efficiently at drone production facilities in western Ukraine, beginning 2 weeks prior. Ukroboronprom engineers assembled a swarm of at least 40 Lyutiy drones, long-range, domestically developed suicide UAVs, each 8.2 feet long with a 9.8-foot wingspan, carrying 88 to 110-pound high-explosive warheads, cruising at 93 to 124 miles per hour, and boasting a range exceeding 620 miles. Powered by 50 horsepower piston engines, these drones operate for 6 to 7 hours with 26.4 gallons of fuel and advanced cooling systems for high temperature conditions. Constructed from composite materials, they have a radar cross-section akin to a large bird, equipped with inertial navigation, GPS jamming resistance, and electronic warfare pods to disrupt Russian X-band radar. Costing under $50,000 each, Ukraine produced thousands of Lyutiy drones in 2025, making them a pivotal weapon for deep strikes without risking pilots. Supporting the Lyutiy drones, Ukraine deployed 10 Beaver decoy drones with a 500-mile range, 66-pound warheads, and 112-mile speed, alongside 5 high-speed AQ-400 Scythe drones traveling at 155 miles per hour with 44-pound warheads to distract Russian air defenses at secondary targets. Planners used simulation software to map precise flight paths, launching from mobile sites south of Kyiv, flying at 330 to 1,600 feet to evade radar, and avoiding known air defense stations in Rostov Oblast. The software integrated 3D terrain data and Russian radar maps from NATO reconnaissance aircraft, optimizing drone survivability. A subset of drones was tasked as decoys, targeting the Kotovsky gunpowder factory in Tambov Oblast to divert Russian forces, creating an opening for the main swarm to reach its target. At 2 a.m. on July 25, Ukrainian launch teams operating from camouflaged trucks on rural dirt roads used compressed air to deploy the drones. They climbed to 1,640 feet before descending, maintaining a steady 112 miles per hour to conserve fuel over the 500-mile, 4-5-hour journey. The initial phase proceeded smoothly, with the swarm crossing the Ukraine-Russia border undetected, flying low under Russian radar sweeps and using hilly terrain as cover. Upon entering Russian airspace, the drones were remotely guided via encrypted channels, with some switching to inertial navigation to counter jamming. As the swarm entered Rostov Oblast, Russian radar detected signals, triggering alerts at command centers. Russian MiG-31 fighters scrambled from Milarova airbase, armed with R-77 air-to-air missiles with a 68-mile range and Mach 4 speed to hunt the drones. Each MiG-31 carried Zaslon-M radar, capable of detecting small targets at 124 miles, but complex terrain and the faint radar signatures of Lyutiy drones hindered Russian pilots. Ukraine anticipated this, with drones activating countermeasures, diving to 330 feet to exploit terrain clutter, and emitting false signals to deceive Russian systems. Per Kyiv Post, a group of 10 Beaver drones diverted toward Tambov, drawing fire from Pantsir S-1 units with 30mm cannons firing 4,000 rounds per minute, and 57 E-6 missiles with a 12-mile range, sparking explosions at the Kotovsky factory, a secondary success that destroyed a 550-ton gunpowder stockpile, causing $5 million in damage. The main swarm reached Stavropol Krai around 4 a.m., facing a robust defense of S-400 systems with 250-mile radar range and 40 N-6E missiles reaching 250 miles, alongside mobile Panzer S-1 units deployed around the plant post-June attack. The S-400 system's 91 N-6E radar struggled with low-angle scans, making low-flying drones hard to detect. The drones flew in a loose formation, spaced 0.6–1.2 miles apart to avoid mass losses, executing pre-programmed sharp maneuvers when targeted. Local witnesses in Nevinnomyssk reported hearing the drones hum mixed with tracer fire from anti-aircraft guns lighting up the night sky. The 30mm anti-aircraft rounds echoed, shaking windows in buildings 1.86 miles from the plant. Russia managed to down about 30 drones, mostly unarmed decoys, but Ukraine's ingenuity allowed 7 to 10 Lyutiy drones to breach defenses, proving their homegrown drone technology outmatched Russia's costly air defenses. The lead drone struck the primary ammonia tank, a massive structure holding 2,200 tons of volatile liquid, at 124 miles per hour, hitting the base and detonating its 110-pound warhead, igniting a fireball that shattered 8-inch thick metal. The ammonia explosion released toxic gas, but prevailing winds carried it away from residential areas, avoiding civilian harm, a humanitarian win for Ukraine. The blast, equivalent to 11 tons of TNT, collapsed nearby structures and formed a 165-foot-high toxic cloud, spared from reaching civilians by southwest winds. A secondary explosion spread through adjacent nitric acid pipelines, triggering a violent chemical reaction with flames and black smoke rising hundreds of feet. A second drone targeted the acetic acid production unit, striking 165-foot distillation towers, breaching reinforced concrete and igniting a fire that spread to the central control room. The tower, holding 220 tons of acetic acid at 145 psi, triggered a secondary blast equivalent to 5.5 tons of TNT, obliterating the nearby production area. Per Euromaidan Press, explosions rang out 10-15 times over an hour, with flames lighting the northern horizon, as captured in viral social media videos. A third drone hit the melamine production facility, Russia's only source of adhesive resin for explosives, collapsing the roof and halting its 11-ton daily output. The attack destroyed 80% of the melamine equipment, crippling Russia's resin supply for at least 6 months. Remaining drones struck chemical storage warehouses, creating 16 to 33-foot wide craters, destroying thousands of tons of stored materials and sparking widespread fires. The warehouse, holding 3,300 tons of ammonia and 1,650 tons of nitric acid, triggered cascading explosions, with black smoke covering a 1.24-mile radius. Russian defenses downed a few final drones, but the damage was catastrophic. Fires raged, chemical leaks forced full evacuation, and production halted indefinitely. The Odessa Journal reported satellite imagery showing black smoke enveloping the plant, collapsed workshop roofs, scorched pipelines, and scattered craters. A devastating blow that cut Russia's nitric acid output by 20%, or 5,500 tons monthly, slashing Sverdlov factory supplies and reducing Russia's artillery shell production by 10%. The destruction at Nevinnomyssk Azot was a disaster for Russia, far exceeding their admissions. The plant suffered not only physical devastation, shattered tanks, burned-out workshops, and ruined warehouses, but also a crippled military supply chain. Halting ammonia and nitric acid production forced Russia to rely on facilities like Nevinnomyssk Azot, spiking logistics costs by millions and slowing weapons production. Rerouting supplies via overloaded railways extended transport times from 3 to 7-10 days, straining military logistics. This directly impacted the front. Russian artillery, including two S-19 Mista-S 152mm self-propelled howitzers with an 18-mile range, must ration ammunition, reducing bombardment intensity and allowing Ukrainian forces to reinforce and counterattack in Bakhmut and Avdiivka. The attack extended to 10 other sites, with Russia claiming to down 105 drones, though many succeeded in Tambov, Rostov, and elsewhere, sparking fires at the Kotovsky gunpowder factory and a Rostov fuel depot. Drones in Rostov targeted a depot holding 55,000 tons of aviation fuel, causing a 12-hour fire and destroying 30% of Morozovsk Air Base's reserves. Russia temporarily closed 8 southern airports, including Sochi and Vladikavkaz, delaying 25 flights and disrupting military transport. Economic losses reached tens of millions, excluding repair and production costs, pressuring Russia internally from Eurochem stakeholders. Ukraine achieved remarkable success, not only destroying a strategic target, but also proving its capacity to produce and deploy large-scale, long-range drones, penetrating Russian defenses without losing personnel. The nighttime strike minimized civilian harm, with no casualties reported, per Nevinnomysk's mayor Mikhail Minenkov, showcasing Ukraine's professionalism and humanity. The operation signaled to Western allies Ukraine's ability to produce high-impact weapons independently, reducing aid reliance. It also boosted Ukrainian morale, proving they can strike deep into Russia despite limited Western support, forcing Russia to spread resources thin. HUR leveraged witness videos and social media to confirm success, with thousands of views reinforcing Kiev's position in this asymmetric war. Russia, in contrast, scrambled to conceal its failure. The Russian Defense Ministry boasted of downing 105 drones, an inflated figure to mask the reality of significant breaches and damage. Mayor Minenkov posted videos praising workers, showing the plant from afar with hazy smoke, avoiding the true extent of destruction, a typical propaganda tactic to maintain Russia's invincible image. Russian media spread fake images suggesting normal operations, but Maxar Technologies' satellite imagery revealed 60% of the plant's infrastructure heavily damaged. Nevinnomyssk locals reported panic from thunderous explosions and fires visible 3 miles away, though Russian media suppressed criticism. To contextualize Ukraine's success, consider the broader picture. In 2025, Ukraine invested $2 billion in its drone program, producing 30,000 long-range units, including Lyutiy and variants like Beaver, 500-mile range, 66-pound warhead, used as decoys in Tambov, and AQ-400 Scythe, 155 miles per hour, for support. Funded partly by the Come Back Alive Civilian Fund, which raised $500 million from Ukrainians, the program reflects national unity. These drones, improved from Iran's Shahed design, excel with homegrown anti-radar tech. Equipped with infrared cameras for precise nighttime targeting, some recorded video before impact, relaying data to her to confirm hits. Compared to June's 13 drone attack with minor damage, this tripled-scale strike caused far greater destruction, highlighting Ukraine's rapid progress. Analysis of Russian air defenses revealed weaknesses. S-400 systems detected drones late due to low-altitude flight, while Panzer units were effective at close range but overwhelmed. Russia's Nebo-M radar in Stavropol, designed for 1,970-foot targets, struggled with drones below 656 feet. Russia needs low-altitude radar upgrades but lacks funds due to the prolonged war, while Ukraine adapts from past failures. Stavropol locals reported over 20 explosions and 330-foot-high smoke plumes, but Russia downplayed the damage, closing airports and delaying flights without clear explanation. Telegram posts from residents described chaos, with fire trucks and ambulances operating for 6 hours post-attack. Overall, the July 25 strike was a major Ukrainian victory, proving they can weaken Russia from the rear without direct confrontation. The attack not only caused physical damage, but also shook Russia's confidence in its defenses, forcing a strategic reassessment. Russia's attempts to downplay the losses were undermined by videos and independent sources. As the war continues, Ukraine is gaining ground in its fight for independence, leveraging advancing drone technology and intelligence tactics to assert itself as a formidable adversary, reshaping the battlefield despite military disparities.